Sometimes when I look back, it feels like my life split in two before Patrick and after Patrick. I first met Patrick about 5 years ago back in college. I was buried in computer science assignments, pulling all-nighters with code that refused to compile. He was in the art building across campus, sketching logos and poster designs, always surrounded by scraps of paper and the smell of charcoal. We were both young, broke, and a little lost, but with him I felt a spark. From the start, we clicked. He made me laugh. During late-night coffee runs, I helped him fix his glitchy laptop, and before long, we were inseparable. 2 years in, we moved into a small but cozy apartment in the city. It wasn't fancy peeling paint, a leaky faucet in the kitchen, but it was ours. Patrick's income from freelance gigs was spotty, so I covered most of the rent and utilities. I didn't resent it. I told myself, this is what you do when you believe in someone. You carry them until they can stand on their own. When Patrick lost his biggest client one year, I even picked up extra freelance coding projects just to keep us afloat. I skipped a promotion opportunity because it would have meant relocating, and I didn't want to uproot him when his career was just beginning. At the time, I told myself it was love. That's what love required: sacrifice. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it felt real. And physically, things were good. No, they were better than good. Movie nights curled up together, spontaneous weekend trips where we'd hike all day and collapse tangled up in some cheap Airbnb bed. I can still picture one particular weekend, a small cabin in the mountains. We laughed in front of a fireplace until our faces hurt, clothes scattered across the floor. It was messy, passionate, mutual. That was us, or so I thought. But about 8 months ago, something shifted. It started quietly, the way a storm builds on the horizon before you see the lightning. Patrick pulled away in small ways. When I reached for his hand on the couch, he stiffened. Our bedtime routines grew awkward. His kisses turned into quick pecks on the cheek, and when I tried for more, he brushed me off. I'm just tired, he'd mutter, rolling over. At first, I chalked it up to stress. His freelance work was picking up and he was pitching to bigger agencies. I figured he was overwhelmed, maybe even insecure, and I tried to be patient. I gave him space, kept telling myself, this is just a phase, don't push. But in the back of my mind, a whisper was growing louder. Something wasn't right. And soon I'd realize that the distance between us wasn't about stress, it was about secrets. The night he finally said it, I remember exactly where we were. Our bedroom was dim, the hum of the city outside the only sound. I was scrolling aimlessly on my phone while Patrick sat stiffly on the edge of the bed like he was rehearsing a speech. Paula, he said, his voice calm, deliberate, but with that sharp edge he used when he'd already made up his mind. I set my phone down, sensing the weight in his tone. What's wrong? He stared at his hands for a beat, then looked me straight in the eyes. I've been thinking a lot, and I realize I'm asexual. Physical intimacy, it disgusts me now. The thought of touching like that, it makes my skin crawl. For a moment, I couldn't even process what I was hearing. My heart thudded against my ribs. What I whispered. Patrick, we've been together for years. We've been fine, great even. What changed? He crossed his arms defensive as if I was attacking him. People change, Paula. Or maybe I was always this way and I just didn't have the words for it. But every time you try to start something, it feels like a chore. Your hands on me. It makes me feel trapped. His words landed like a blade. Trapped. Disgust. Words I never thought would be aimed at me. I didn't realize I was making you uncomfortable all this time, I murmured, guilt rushing in before anger had a chance. And just like that, his tone sharpened, triumphant almost. See, that's the problem. You're making this about yourself. I'm being honest with you, Paula, and now you're painting me as the bad guy. If you really cared about me, you'd respect this, not twist it into your ego or your needs. I felt myself shrinking inside, folding into guilt. Had I been selfish, blind? All those nights I thought we were close, was I actually hurting him? That night I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every memory, every kiss, every touch. They all felt poisoned now. The following weeks were a blur of research. I dove into articles, online forums, even joined a support group for partners of asexual people. I told myself, maybe I can adapt. Maybe we'll find a new rhythm. I suggested couples therapy, but Patrick dismissed it with a wave of his hand. You're overreacting. This is who I am now. Accept it. So I tried. I planned low-pressure dates, walks in the park, cooking together. No pressure for intimacy. But even hugs felt forced. He'd flinch, mutter about personal space. Meanwhile, his phone never stopped buzzing. Messages, late-at-night calls he took in another room. When I leaned closer, he'd angle the screen away. "You're so needy," he snapped one night when I asked who he was texting. "This is why I feel suffocated. You can't just let me breathe." I told myself it was my fault again, that I was failing him, that if I just gave him more space, more patience, more understanding, maybe things would go back to how they once were. But deep down, the whisper inside me was turning into a roar. Something wasn't adding up. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday, the kind of day you don't expect your entire life to come crashing down. I had left work early, wanting to surprise Patrick. His favorite pad thai, still warm in the paper bag, steamed up the passenger seat as I drove home. I remember smiling, thinking maybe this small gesture could remind him of us, of before. When I stepped into the apartment, it was unusually quiet. Patrick wasn't home yet. His laptop sat open on the kitchen table screen, glowing in the dim light. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. I only meant to close it so I could set the food down. Then it happened. A notification popped up in the corner of the screen. "From someone named Marissa last night was incredible. Can't wait for round two." My heart stopped. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, hoping I'd misread. But the message blinked back at me, cruel and undeniable. My hand trembled as I clicked it open. What I found wasn't a single message. It was an entire thread. Photos. Explicit details. Patrick gushing about passion fireworks, how she made him feel alive. And Marissa wasn't the only one. There were others. A coworker named Ryan, a woman from some design conference he'd attended. Dates overlapped with the exact weeks he'd claimed intimacy with me disgusted him. I scrolled back further, nausea rising like bile. Then I saw the words that burned themselves into my brain. Paula totally bought the ace excuse. Easy cover. Sex with her was boring anyway, too vanilla. With you, it's fireworks every time. I dropped into a chair, my hands gripping the table, so hard my knuckles turned white. Every memory, the cabin in the mountains, lazy Sunday mornings, tangled together, even the moments I'd thought were special, it all twisted into something grotesque. Had he been laughing at me the entire time? By the time the front door clicked open, I felt hollowed out. Patrick walked in carrying shopping bags, humming to himself. He stopped short when he saw my face, the laptop closed beside me. "What's wrong?" he asked lightly, though his eyes darted to the computer. "You look like someone died." I swallowed hard. I saw the messages, Patrick. My voice was calm, too calm. All of them. His face paled, but only for a flicker. Then came the smirk, the roll of his eyes. "You went through my stuff." "Wow, Paula, that's a violation." "A violation." My voice cracked louder now. "You've been sleeping with multiple women while telling me I make your skin crawl. You lied. You made me feel like a monster for wanting the relationship we had." He dropped the bags on the counter, crossing his arms. "Okay, fine. You caught me. But let's be real, this is on you too. Our sex life was stale. You never wanted to try anything new. You were boring. I needed excitement." I blinked at him, stunned. "Excitement. That's your excuse?" He shrugged, casual, as if we were debating what movie to watch. "These women, they make me feel alive. You don't. I only said the asexual thing because I knew you'd freak out if I told you the truth. I was protecting your feelings, Paula." I laughed then, bitter and sharp. "Protecting me? You gaslit me into therapy. You made me question my worth. That's not protection, Patrick. That's betrayal." He leaned against this counter, smirk curling on his lips. "Betrayal. Dramatic much. People evolve. You're reliable, sure, but you're like an old sweater, comfortable but boring. I deserve passion, and clearly you can't give me that." I stood my chair, scraping against the floor. My voice was steady now, steel under the heartbreak. "If that's how you see it, fine. We're done. I'll help you pack tonight." For the first time, he blinked, caught off guard. "That's it. No yelling, no begging." "No," I said, already pulling empty boxes from the closet. "You made your choice. You don't get to have both me and your fireworks." That night we packed in silence. He left with half the furniture, his clothes, his art supplies. By morning he was gone. And for the first time in years, so was my illusion of us. The morning after Patrick left the apartment felt like a ghost town. Half the shelves were empty, his posters gone from the walls, his scent still clinging faintly to the couch cushions. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee growing cold in my hands, staring at the hollow spaces he'd carved out by leaving. I thought I would cry, but instead there was just silence. Not peace, not yet. Just the kind of silence that presses on your chest, makes you notice every creak in the floorboards, every tick of the clock. The betrayal replayed in my head on a loop, his words boring old sweater. I deserved passion echoed like poison. I'd given up promotions, extra hours of sleep nights out, with friends, all so he could have stability. And in return, he mocked me to strangers. Still, I didn't lash out. I didn't trash his name online or send angry texts. Instead, I started small. I changed the locks, canceled our joint streaming accounts, deleted his contact, though my thumb hovered over his name longer than I'd like to admit. But nights were the hardest. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, haunted by questions. Was it me? Was I really that boring? Had I missed every red flag? The guilt gnawed at me, threatening to turn me inside out. It was Maya, my best friend since high school, who pulled me out of that spiral. One evening, she came over with takeout and a bottle of wine. She didn't ask questions at first, just sat with me in the mess. After a while, she started shoving furniture around, saying, "If you're going to heal, you can't live in a shrine to him." So we rearranged the apartment until the rooms felt different, mine again. We pushed the couch against the opposite wall, moved the desk into the bedroom, bought new sheets. It wasn't much, but every change was a small rebellion, a way of saying, "This is my space now, not his." Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects, volunteering for tasks that scared me before. A month later, my manager handed me a bonus check, smiling like I'd finally come into my own. I also joined a gym. At first, it was just to kill time to avoid the hollow apartment. But soon, the rhythm of it, the sweat, the muscle ache gave me back. A body I'd forgotten I owned. Every drop of sweat felt like purging his voice from my head. Still, the ache of loneliness lingered. I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos, memories of road trips and laughter, trying to reconcile that Patrick with the stranger who'd looked me in the eye and said I disgusted him. Sometimes guilt crept in like a shadow. Maybe if I'd been more adventurous. Maybe if I hadn't worked so much. Maybe if I'd been enough. But then the other voice, the one growing louder, would whisper, "No, he lied. He manipulated. This isn't your burden to carry." Weeks stretched into months. Slowly, the silence in my apartment shifted. It stopped feeling suffocating. It started feeling peaceful. No more walking on eggshells. No more apologizing for wanting love. I wasn't whole yet, but I was breathing again. And just when I thought the worst was over, I got a call that changed everything. "Paula," Maya said, her voice tight. "Have you seen this? It's about Patrick. It's all over social media." My stomach sank. Whatever Patrick had done, the world was about to know it too. Maya's voice was trembling through the phone. "It's all over the design community page. Someone posted everything." I pulled up the link she sent, my hands shaking. The page was flooded with screenshots, private messages between Patrick and one of his affairs, a coworker named Liam. His username was visible enough that nobody questioned it. The texts were raw, explicit, the kind of details that leave no room for denial. One thread stopped me cold. Paula bought the Ace story hook, line, and sinker. Told her intimacy disgusts me. LOL only with her. You're the real deal. With you, it's fireworks. My stomach turned, but this time not from guilt. From fury. From vindication. The post spread like wildfire. Even mutual acquaintances. Some defended him for half a heartbeat, but the evidence was undeniable. By the end of the week, Patrick's professional world collapsed. His agency issued a statement about unprofessional conduct and fired him. Clients he'd been courting cut ties. Word spread fast. Nobody wanted to work with a designer known more for scandals than skill. Friends distanced themselves too. Group chats we once shared lit up with debates, and most people sided against him. "He's toxic," one person wrote. "He gaslit Paula and cheated." Didn't even like or share. I just watched from a distance as the truth carved through the lies he'd built. Irony dripped from every headline, every whisper Patrick had chased. Passion, excitement, validation, and ended up with nothing. No job, no income, no friends he could count on. Maya sent me updates in disbelief. "He's couch surfing. His parents are furious, but they bailed him out once already. Word is he's broke." I should have felt triumphant, but what I actually felt was something quieter, a strange calm. For the first time since he dropped the asexual bombshell on me, I knew none of this was my fault. He had made his choices, and now the world could finally see him for who he really was. But I also knew Patrick. Desperation made him dangerous. He wasn't the type to disappear quietly into the shadows. And I was right, because within days of his life unraveling, he came crawling back. The first message slipped through my inbox 2 nights after his firing. Subject line, we need to talk. From Patrick. Paula, this is all a huge misunderstanding. Please call me. I need you. I didn't respond. Deleted it without finishing the paragraph. The next day, a new number lit up my phone. Paula, it's me. I'm sorry you saw those messages. I was confused. Okay. Confused about my identity. Can we meet? I miss us. I blocked the number, but the silence only provoked him. Within a week, he was outside my building, buzzing my intercom like a man possessed. I peeked through the peephole. His hair was messy, his eyes red, shoulders hunched. Paula, he shouted, open up, please. I've lost everything, my job, my friends. Don't do this to me, too. You always said you'd support me. Don't abandon me now. His voice cracked, part desperation, part accusation, the same tone he used when he wanted to guilt me into staying quiet. I stood there frozen until the buzzing stopped. Later that night, he left a voicemail. I know I messed up, but remember how good we were? The way we laughed. I was going through a phase exploring myself. But I see now, you were the only real thing in my life. Please don't shut me out. I listened once, then I deleted it. He didn't stop there. His sister, who never liked me much, messaged me on social media. Hey, Paula, Patrick's a wreck because of you. That Liam guy ruined his reputation, but you're no saint either. You drove him away with your neediness. Be decent and talk to him. He needs you. My reply was curt, not my family anymore. Lose my contact. Block. Then a mutual friend, Tom, called me during lunch. Paula, come on. He's crashing at his parents broke as hell. He says he realizes now you were the stable one. Give him a chance to explain. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Tom, he cheated, lied, humiliated me. There's nothing to explain. Harsh Tom muttered. People make mistakes. Then let him make them far away from me, I snapped and hung up. But Patrick wasn't done. 2 weeks later, he found me at the gym. I was heading to my car when I heard his voice behind me. Paula, wait. I froze, then turned. He looked thinner, pale, his desperation worn on his face like a mask. I see now how wrong I was, he said quickly. The whole asexual thing, it was a cop-out. I was scared of commitment, of getting stuck. But losing you. It's killing me. Please, just coffee. Let me explain. I shook my head walking past him. No, Patrick. We're past that. His tone cracked from pleading into bitterness. Fine. Be that way. But you'll regret it when I'm back on top and you're still alone in that sad little apartment. I didn't even look back. That night, the voicemails turned ugly. Burner numbers with his voice spitting venom. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me suffer while you play the victim. I gave you years, Paula. Now you think you're too good for me. You're cold, heartless. Hope your next guy sees what you really are. Even his mother emailed me. Paula, you have a responsibility. Patrick is depressed, not eating. Be the bigger person and help him. You knew him better than anyone. I archived it without answering. Every message, every visit, every attempt peeled away his last mask. This wasn't love. It was entitlement. A belief that I would always be his safety net no matter how many times he cut the rope. But I was done, and I wasn't alone anymore. Because while Patrick was busy unraveling, my life was quietly filling with something new, someone new. 6 months after Patrick walked out of my life, I stood on a rooftop strung with lights, laughter echoing in the summer night. It was Maya's engagement party, one of the first big social events I'd allowed myself to attend since everything fell apart. I didn't come alone. Elias was with me. We'd met at a local coding boot camp where I volunteered him a graphic novelist guest lecturing on storytelling. He was steady in a way Patrick never was, patient, grounded, with a quiet wit that disarmed me. When he held my hand that night, it felt natural, not staged. No games. I should have known Patrick would be there. Maya had warned me gently that he'd RSVP'd through mutual acquaintances. But don't worry, she whispered. You don't owe him anything. Still, when I spotted him across the rooftop, thinner, hollow-eyed, a forced smile glued to his face, I felt my chest tighten. He looked out of place, clutching a drink, scanning the crowd until his gaze landed on me. Our eyes locked. His expression cracked, desperation seeping through. He made a beeline straight for us. Paula, he breathed when he reached me, ignoring Elias completely. His voice was low, urgent. Thank God you're here. I've been trying to reach you for months. I stood tall, Elias's hand still in mine. Patrick. My tone was flat, giving him nothing. He leaned closer, words spilling out fast. Everything's falling apart. My job, my friends. I have nothing left. And I realize now you were the best thing I had. I was stupid, confused. The cheating, it was a mistake. A way to feel something. But I need you back. We can start fresh. Therapy. Whatever it takes. Please. His words, once a weapon, now sounded hollow. I thought of all the nights I'd cried on that couch, the emails, the guilt trips, the venom in his voicemails. I remembered how he had said intimacy with me was disgusting, how he'd mocked me to strangers. Elias squeezed my hand, grounding me. I looked Patrick in the eye, my voice steady, sharp enough to cut through the music behind us. Do you remember telling me I was boring? That I was like an old sweater, comfortable but worthless? Do you remember saying I disgusted you? Patrick flinched, but I didn't stop. You rewrote our history with lies. You wanted passion, excitement, fireworks. Well, you got it. And now you're standing here asking me to be your lifeline after you burned me to the ground. He swallowed hard, eyes darting to Elias before snapping back to me. But history matters, Paula. We had years together. You can't just throw that away. History. I shook my head. You destroyed it. You don't get to use the past as leverage when you twisted it to suit yourself. I don't owe you anything. For the first time, I saw it, his mask crumbling. Anger flickered in his eyes, his mouth twisting. Irrelevant. That's what you think I am, after everything. Yes, I said simply, irrelevant. And with that, I turned away. Elias and I walked back into the crowd, his arm brushing mine steady and warm. Behind us, I could feel Patrick's stare like a weight, but it no longer touched me. He was no longer my storm, just a shadow fading under the rooftop lights. The weeks after Maya's rooftop party felt different, like someone had finally opened a window in a suffocating room. For months, Patrick's presence had lingered like smoke through emails, through gossip, through the echo of his voice in my head. But that night, when I walked away from him for the last time, the air shifted. He was no longer a looming shadow, just a memory stripped of power. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became mine. Work flourished. The promotion I'd once sacrificed came back around, and this time I didn't hesitate. My manager handed me new responsibilities with a grin. I knew you had this in you, Paula, she said. And for the first time in years, I believed it too. Outside of work, I found myself pouring into things that once scared me. I signed up to mentor young coders at the boot camp where I'd first met Elias. Standing in front of a room of eager students, I realized how far I'd come from the woman who let someone else define her worth to someone carving out her own voice. And Elias, he wasn't a grand gesture kind of man. He didn't shower me with fireworks or dizzying promises. What he offered was steadier, quieter an arm around my shoulders. After a long day laughter over burnt pancakes on Sunday mornings, someone who didn't make me question if I was enough. With him, I learned that love isn't about sacrifice until you're hollow. It's about building something where both people can stand tall. One evening, sitting on my balcony as the city buzzed below, Elias handed me a sketchbook. Inside were pages he'd drawn, of me laughing with students at the boot camp, curled up with my laptop, even rearranging furniture with Maya. Moments I thought were ordinary, but through his eyes they were worth capturing. You don't realize how strong you are, he said softly. And for once I didn't argue. Patrick faded further with every passing week. Friends told me he'd burned through couches, that his reputation was beyond repair. But I didn't check, didn't gloat. He had his story, and I had mine. The difference was mine was moving forward. Sometimes I think back to the girl who sat on her kitchen floor the night she discovered those messages, shaking with disbelief. She thought her world was ending. She didn't know that endings can be beginnings in disguise. I do now. And if Patrick ever crosses my mind, it's not with rage or longing. It's with the quiet certainty that I survived him. That I came out not just intact, but stronger. Because love isn't about fireworks that burn out. It's about the steady glow that lasts.